All right, the next item up, we have, as always, we look on our quarterly basis to have Joel speak to us. So Joel, you're going to give us a facility update. Sure. No problem. We don't bite.
Okay. Thanks. There are really just a couple of items that I think were in the packet that I'd like to speak to tonight. The first being a lighting upgrade project. It's for the outdoor lighting outside the facility here. It involves a DCEO grant, that's Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and some of the funding information I think was included in there. We just completed, this summer, we completed a retrofit of the lighting in 4 of our large athletic facilities. It was a pretty good sized project that was bid out, and it was about $77,000 between state maintenance grants and the DCEO. It's gonna, I think the final is going to be about $5,000 or $6,000. That project is projected to save us about $1,600 a month from out of those rooms, it also too, it provides in my opinion, a better lighting for those areas, and immediate lighting too. So it's it'll use about between 1/4 to 1/3 of the wattage that the previous ones did, and even the bulb replacements are we went from about $50 a fixture down to about $15 to do a fixture. So this is a similar proposal for the exterior lighting. We're looking DCEO with the DCEO energy grants. We're trying to take advantage of that as much as possible. It's a funding mechanism that ComEd uses. It comes out of everybody's ComEd bill, and they pay for it anyway. So we're just trying to take advantage of it to get some improvements here and get us a little more energy efficient.
Joel, you have 3 attachments.
Yes, I do.
Do you want to explain to the board? I think you have the cumulative one on top. Is that correct, or is it the?
Yeah. The first one is the overall. That's kind of all the exterior lighting, and then there are 3 that are kind of broken out by the type of fixture, essentially, and that's the wall packs, which are the kind of ones that are mounted on the surface of the wall and reflect pretty much directly on the building or right onto the sidewalk. The post, the big globe lights and the ornamental lights, and then the canopy style lights, which are primarily over by door H, between doors G and H. And just kind of it's just a breakout of each of the types of lights and what the proposal would look like, just if you broke them out that way.
So we're going from 84 to 75, and that's cost proposal. If anybody wanted to see the summary of the cost proposal.
Yeah.
Well, the payback is in a little more than 2 years.
Yeah, that's correct.
What's the technology behind it? Is it LEDs or?
And it depends on the different thing. There really isn't a lot of LED yet that's kind of sort of proven technology yet, yeah. But in the instance of the canopy stuff, really it's reducing the number of fixtures, but providing equal number of lumens, and the lighting would be the same. It'd be consistent with what we have. In fact, we get a little bit more out of it. It's really about reducing wattage.
Yeah. Do they burn cooler then? Probably.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And the startup time is way faster than our old technology. Say, for instance, in the swimming pool, they went down one day and it took about an hour to get them back up.
Yeah, that's the swimming pool is one of the other areas that we're looking at.
It's bidding out.
Yeah, with this DCEO granting funding. That was the case with the other athletic areas too. It takes about 15 minutes. There's a warm-up time with the vapor type lights.
Are these is ESN a middleman? A broker?
Yeah, I mean, where their expertise is essentially is to get the grants to identify where the dollars are, where to be able to save the dollars.
And then who's Indicom?
Indicom was a contractor
Yeah.
They
They're not
bid the
the
work
same.
out. No, they're not.
Okay.
No, Indicom was the winning contractor that won
So-
the bid,
previous
did the
bid.
athletic.
So they don't compete against each other? Okay.
Right, correct.
Joel, if we went with this, sorry, if we
That's
went
for
with this,
you.
if we went with this project,
Yeah.
with the total cost of being 34, Tim, we would want to put this back out to do the RFP again and rebid it?
Yes.
Okay, so the board understands this is a time when we'd like to discuss this with you. If you have any questions, and there might not be any questions, we received that, when we worked out the negotiations with the Aramark regarding some of that, the language in some of the past contract and receiving some of the credit, we received about a $40,000 maintenance grant that was going to be offset for a couple, that we could use over a couple years. And so what we were talking about, Tim, Joel, and myself with the Facilities Council a little bit, is kind of using that money as startup money. You know, this project would cost $34,000 out of pocket, so we would use maybe the $34,000 from that 40, and then once we receive the $17,000 grant, we replenish the 40, the fund that's holding where that 40,000 was. So really, we're only taking 17 out net at the end of the day, but we would have to have somewhere where we didn't have 40,000 just budgeted to do these projects. But from Mr. Walsh's expertise and from Joel, this is something that we think is going to be around for the next 2 or 3 years. And I believe the way the legislation is written or the statute's written. So this would be an opportunity if we continue to replenish that money and use that money for the startup cost, we could redo the entire building and all our facilities with, you know, high efficiency lighting or low, you know, at a low expense and be saving money then on our bills and our utility costs.
I told Kevin I'd expand if you want I have an attorney for you to actually work on this for our company, but all the utilities in the state had to set aside significant amounts of money for energy assistance. The ComEd, the electrics are in the beginning of a second of a 3-year program, and the gas are in the second of a 3-year program, but they know they're going into a second 3-year program already, and 25% of the funds, and it's many millions, tens of millions of dollars for both ComEd and NICOR, are given to the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and that money is used for businesses and government agencies to undertake projects that will conserve energy. So Joel can look at electric savings or natural gas, any kind of energy savings, and there's money, you know, that has to fit criteria and has to be approved, but you know, he's working, he went to the biggest hit already, and he found another one, and there's probably others that we could consider as we go on.
So this DCEO grant, we're guaranteed to get it, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't commit to the work or put
Right.
the RFP out unless we know we were approved for the grant.
It's written into the specs.
And how long does it take to get the acknowledgement if you got the grant?
Well, that's pretty quick turnaround, because we brought this to the board last spring, notifying you about the first energy savings, and we did about $70,000 worth of work for $35,000 roughly, Tim, right? Help me with the numbers.
Yeah, just with the DCO money, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we got a little over 40,000 now.
And we got a $40,000 rebate, and that's how we were able to do all the gyms, the field house, some of those areas. So basically, what I just wanted to bring up to the board, and if I don't see any concerns from the board, we'll have Joe work with ESN to put in another grant proposal, see if we get approved. If we get approved, we would put out the RFP for the work, and then bring hold a bid process, and then bring a recommendation on a bid winner to the board for the second phase of electrical upgrades. Is the board okay with that? Anybody have any questions?
Is the lamp replacement cycle better than incandescent bulbs or the halogen?
Yeah,
I'm not that
yeah.
familiar with the technology,
Sure.
but
No, I would say it's comparable. The difference really is with the incandescent, they kind of gradually go. Like in the gym, they gradually go. You don't even notice it getting dimmer in there. You're still using the same wattage, but you're getting less and less light. With the fluorescent, they just go out. You know they're done, and you replace them.
But this is beyond that.
Huh?
This technology beyond fluorescent?
No, like in the gyms, that's fluorescent. Those are fluorescents. But we went from multi-vapor, high-pressure multi-vapor lights that are not real efficient to this. Now, out front, there's different fixtures that we're going to. There really won't be any LED stuff. Not at this point, but it'll be a lot more efficient, fluorescent stuff.
And then as this project continues, we've already started to identify areas where we can put in motion sensors and different switches and things like that. So, but if we do it gradually and we use the earmark money to continue to start these programs, and then we should be able to get a lot of this done through that maintenance grant and not have the budget separately for it.
And this particular summary page talks about 3 different types of replacement, canopy, ornamental, and the other.
Right.
And is that all old fixtures as opposed to fixtures that were purchased through the renovation?
That's a good question. I don't know that. I don't know that they're all old. The way this stuff moves, it's almost like like the laptops you're all sitting looking at. This stuff changes pretty quickly. So I think that's where the bang is. I don't know how old they are. I think some of them, like the canopies, I think are fairly old. I don't think. I think those were original in that, but it's just more efficient ballast essentially, and lamps.
We have some of those globe lights outside, Mike, around the perimeter of the building. They're on 24/7 daylight.
Yeah,
We can't shut them off. So we wanted to fix that.
And that's kind of, I think Kevin alluded to, the next step on this would be, controls, and some other opportunities that are in the building.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, very good job.
Well, actually, I got a question on this. I probably should have brought this up with facilities. Tim, our ROI of like 2 years, this assumes some type of interest rate, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I don't think they.
I didn't see
the
that.
numbers. I don't think they discount.
This whole thing, I'm just looking at this, there's like, you try to follow this thing, I have a hard time
The
following it.
proposal.
Yeah, if they're trying to sell it to us, I'd like to think that, we really went through this thoroughly, but just looking at this, and Tim, maybe you can correct me, shouldn't we have like a net present value analysis on this, or?
Well, actually, the reason I didn't do it is this is more, they didn't discount it. So if you did a discount, it would actually show a quicker payback period, right?
So they didn't discount it at all?
They just did it based on a straight line kind of amortization, and it's really a conservative estimate.
Okay.
Basically, it pays for itself in under just over 2 years.
Yeah, if you figured, well, of course, I don't know, the cost of money's pretty low anyway, so it would save a lot, but if you figured on any kind of discounted rate, it would be less than 2 years.
Plus that savings, how long would these fixtures last for? A long
Well,
time?
yeah, they'd have a slightly longer lifespan than the existing fixtures, and some of them that I'm aware of. Some of them I'm not, I don't know the exact, but they're comparable.
And you'd also show the savings for a stream, which they didn't do. They just showed an annual saving investment. If you really did a discount, you'd put 30 years of saving and the cost and discount, and the payback period would probably be a couple months if they did it that way. So the benefits are even greater than this. Plus, they save energy, they're more efficient, and they cost less. From what Joel said, the bulbs, one bulb, he used as an example, they cost $250 or something
Right,
now, and they're going to be like $15 to replace, right?
Right, yeah. Well, the ones, like I mentioned, they're about $50, the ones in the gym, and now it's like, 15. It's pretty good deal on that.
It's a good point you make, though, because it might actually be able to justify some, if you did a discounted rate, it could probably justify some other projects where if you did this, they wouldn't seem as justifiable.
All right, anything else?
Thanks.
All right, Joel.
Okay.
That's next, Joel.
The other thing, I have I prepared a facilities capital project outlay document, and this is essentially identifying some capital project, some needs or potential needs, and the projects are grouped by by life safety, compliance type items, and then general facility kind of wear and tear end of life cycle items. I believe we have oh, it's right there. I guess I'll speak to the first thing to the top group of items there. And it's primarily bleacher stuff. This we have to do a bleacher survey every year. It's a state requirement, and it goes through the life safety and the NFPA, which is National Fire Protection Agency. And for us, it's essentially enforced or overseen by the Regional Office of Education, which in our case is West 40. So in this bleacher inspection report, some of the things that they point out.
Do they walk, you go inspect with them, or you just give a report to them?
Pardon me?
On West 40, do you walk, do they?
They come out.
They come out?
Yeah.
They come out, yeah, annually. And they're, you know, they'll look at different things each year, but we're obligated to have this for them for them to look at. This is, you know, a lot of the issues that they found, the compliance issues on these bleachers, they kind of fall into a couple of categories. Really, it's about you shouldn't have gaps more than 4 inches anywhere between sort of the foot planking and the seat planking. I'm sorry, this is the visitors' side at the stadium, and this picture just kind of shows we're a little bit, and we're about 16 inches, you know, fairly consistently through that structure. This is sort of a long shot of that same structure, and it speaks to another compliance issue that was identified, which is having aisles between the bleachers and rails on the aisles. These do not. It's just to kind of step over the bleachers. So that's where we're kind of that's where the compliance issue is in this photograph.
Is that
I'm
new,
sorry?
those compliance issues? Because those bleachers are not new.
Yeah. No.
Compliance issues have been around for a while, since there's an existing structure. You're documented or cited, but you have
they've
time to implement change.
Right. Really, this is they've kind of gone. They're going about it a little bit differently now. It's different folks doing it. Having these annual inspections is what's kind of driving this stuff, and that's new. Again, the issue here is there's actually a couple of issues that to be in compliance to the walkway in the front of the bleachers would need to be widened as well.
Is the camera picking up these pictures?
They had a camera on the photo?
Yeah, they are? Okay.
Okay. This is the ramp there, and that's just sort of an ADA issue. It's just the grade of the ramp there. The incline is a little bit too steep per the inspection. There's some other items in here. This isn't necessarily that. This is fencing that's kind of down the list here, and sort of a wear and tear item there.
Our fencing from around the entire facility is some of the original fencing, so it's something that we have to be aware of.
It's in the 40-year range, and it isn't. There's sections of it that would need to be replaced entirely, and some potentially it could be repaired too. This is the old entrance to the concourse on the stadium there. That's just to show you some of the masonry issues that we're having there. Some additional ones there.
The underneath of the stadium where the blue paint is, Aramark over the last several years has tried to patch the best they can as well as paint. But what I wanted Joel to show with this picture, just how bad the foundation is cracking and is getting past repair.
And as you see on the thing too, really in the bleacher inspection, they recommended like an engineer or an architectural evaluation of the structure. These are just some kind of cracks and and issues that we have outside the stadium. I'm sure if you've been in there, you're aware of the.
That's the old entrance down to the concourse where they used to have the concession stands and the access to the restrooms. Now they just put a piece of yellow caution tape over there, but the grade on that is almost straight down, as well as the concrete missing and the patches.
Right.
There are definitely some concerns we have with the structure.
And incidentally, the pictures on the bleacher stuff on the top pieces there, I don't have pictures from the inside, but the issues with the gym bleachers and the pool bleachers are similar, sort of, the gaps in the aisles and that kind of stuff. It's another masonry from the outside. It's kind of cracked through the brick, which is kind of an indicator. This is inside the stadium, and there's some masonry that's missing there above the door out. That's the roof of the locker room there. There's some rebar or some reinforcing steel that's exposed. And to Kevin's point, we try and keep that painted too, but it stays ahead of us a lot of times.
You get some water damage through there?
Yeah, essentially that's the cause here, the likely cause anyway.
But now that's the floor to the bleachers, right?
That's
Yes.
correct, right, that's the
what
the
you're
way it's
standing
tiered
and
like
sitting.
that is,
Right.
right.
And then it's what you're standing and sitting on, and what below that is where the
Where the
athletes in
players
the
are.
spring and in the fall are getting dressed every day. And
Yeah, we took it through.
So, there's just similar stuff there. Just a close-up of another area. Same kind of thing though. This is, the locker rooms, there's issues with the plumbing throughout the locker room. This one is really this is a shower area that's really not being used for much other than just storing stuff. It's not necessarily usable. This is on here too. These were just some observations on the condition of the asphalt and that. It doesn't really necessarily come through in the picture, but it's real kind of pretty wavy as well. And that's the walk along the front of the stadium structure there is kind of marked with a lot of that kind of stuff.
so what you see there, go back, Joe.
Sure.
So I don't want to skip over. And so there used to be a fence there. The fence was flush cut as much as it could. Now that the concrete's wearing away and cracking, the parts of the poles in the concrete poles are now exposed. So then we have people tripping and stubbing their toes and injuries coming from some of that. And that kind of goes through the whole cement walk in front of the stadium from gate to gate.
Right. This is a picture of just kind of the curbing of the tennis courts. You can see kind of an example of the cracking. I think there's a close-up of that. I'll come back to the other one, but you can see it's it's kind of sunken and they're at two different levels. So it affects beyond it affects the play obviously and the bounce of the ball and that kind of stuff, but also too potentially kids are running there.
So we've received several concerns from our tennis parents and visiting tennis teams. So we had Joel call or cement or court repair company. I'm not exactly sure what their official, if they're cement or, but we talked just about patching and sealing. And we've had two different companies come out and say now that our tennis courts are past the point to where you can just patch and seal. They have to be refinished because the cracks and the elevation of the cracks and the offset of the cracks is past the point to where just sealant and patching would be able to make it a playing surface. The other thing Joel showed you was, I don't know if...
Let me go back.
Okay, so there's just a couple different issues here. That's one of our drains. We lost a cap, so this is what's been used for the last few years, is that they've had a bucket where they drilled holes, and then when the water gets that high, it goes down through the bucket into the drain. But the other thing, as you can see, the way it's pitched and then the way the curbing is on the tennis courts, it creates ponding on the actual courts, which is then part of the problem of the wear and tear of the court. And several of the drains, if you ignore the bucket, which I know it's tough to, but if you ignore the bucket, if you just look at the rusted out sewer caps, All of those are like that, so that they're 2 or 3 inches raised, which I imagine when they were originally installed, they're probably supposed to be flush with the court surface. So that's another safety hazard as kids are running and using the facility as a training facility and competition facility.
That's the approach to the tennis shed is a piece of plywood.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, that's the approach to the tennis shed. This is a piece of plywood on the ground, and it's sitting on blocks. This is kind of a older structure, obviously. This is the surface on the track. It's been it's scheduled. We've got a guy coming in to repair this, but it's a acrylic type track surface, and it's starting to delaminate from the asphalt underneath.
And the track was replaced in?
The track was replaced in 2006, and it's they're typically about a 5 to 7 year lifespan. I know this on those track surfaces, and you know, this track gets used a lot too. I mean, it's the community is on it quite a bit and enjoys it, I think, and so it's, you know, it's getting its share of wear. I think that's the last one. Just to touch on quickly a couple of the items here, just of interest. And again, this is just identifying both you know, probable, you know, issues and potential issues. The field turf, we're about there was a 10-year warranty on that, and we're kind of monitoring that and making sure that we're going to get our you know, we're going to preserve that asset as best we can. There's a, you know, roofing survey that would be potentially to determine, you know, if the remaining lifespan on those. Obviously, parking's always an issue here.
So we did not replace all the roofs at
No,
construction?
No, it's my understanding from Andy Toten that they did a survey at the time of the renovation, and they kind of determined what would need to be replaced, and that happened during the renovation. That's my understanding of how the process went. There's some corridor magnetic hold opens. Those are the kind of keep the corridor doors open. They're usually tied to the fire system. That it's a recommendation from the Riverside Fire Department. We have to act on it some way, and the best recommendation we've gotten was from, I think, Riverside Fire Department is to tie those into our system. Chimney areas, what I mean by that is it's stairwells where potentially fire could get from one floor to another. The lighting, the retrofit projects we spoke to a little bit, and I put a number in there just to kind of, you know, we think there's probably going to be more opportunities, things like the pool, things like, you know, controls and different things like that. We just want to try and take advantage of as much of that DCEO funding as we can. And then we're due for a sanding on the gym floor. You know, I think that was everything.
How often do you sand the main gym floor?
It's really about every 5 or 6 years to do, or 7 years probably. It'd be on the long end of to do it entirely. Usually, just like screen and recoat it. You know, it's not a very involved process, and that's a measure we could do too. I've also, as my understanding too, that the RV is going the wrong way.
Yeah, the person that painted it did not.
It's facing the wrong way.
When they worked on that floor, did they do what you're saying here?
You know what? I'm not aware that they did. I don't believe that they did. I don't know. I can't say that for certain, but I didn't see any evidence that they did.
Well, even if they did in 08 or 09, we're still almost to the point where it's at the 5 or 6 year point where we need. The reason I had Joel, just to give you a little idea of where we're coming from with this report to the board, because this is going to lead to some discussion tonight. This is Joel's, myself, the facilities council, Tim. We've walked this a couple times. We took the facilities council on a walk last week. The life safety compliance project, these are things we know of. There could be a lot more with life safety. There could be maybe less. Maybe they're saying this isn't life safety. The only way you can do a formal life safety survey is through a certified architect. And school code requires that every 10 years. Ours is up in 2015, but we know that we got some serious issues with that, with the athletic facility over there and with the amount of use it gets between rentals as well as our teams. And we're not quite sure if it's in the best interest of the district to wait till 2015 to first do the study, seeing some of the things we're seeing. So that being said, one thing we would need to think about is actually bringing in a certified architect to do the life safety. The other thing is we want to make sure as we identify projects, we have kind of a big picture plan as we do things. If we know that we're going to need significant repairs to our gym bleachers because of compliance issues, and I think the original estimate you received was $75,000 for the repairs for the gym bleachers, or was that 125?
It was 45 for the main gym.
For the main gym bleachers.
Yeah. And that's about a year and a half old now too.
Right. So if it's going to cost, if it can cost us 100 or 200 and get them completely redone and upgraded since they're the original, we want to start thinking about big picture. Is it worth putting 45,000 into something that in 5 years could need to be fully repaired? The second thing is if you're going to have significant repairs being done, it's probably a good time to strip your floor so that you're not damaging your floor, and then fix your bleachers, fix your floor. Then that facility should be good for several years. I mean, these are the types of things I'm trying to put out there with Joel and with the board to say we got to probably start thinking about this big picture of how we would put together or approach this over the next couple of years. And it's a similar with the bleachers and with the track. If we're going to go and resurface the track here in a year or two, and we know we got some serious concerns with the stadium, are we better off doing it all at once to where fix the existing structure or replace the existing structure? You're going to have trucks and traffic and things going over it to do that, then replace the track or repair or resurface the track, and try to do these things in phases so that they're complementing each other, and in this way sections of our district and our building are up at the same time for annual repairs and maintenance and some of those things. So that was one of the reasons why we put this chart together the way we did. The only way we would know what officially qualifies for life safety is by bringing in a certified architect. And I have some information I'm going to pass out to the board on that in a second. The other issue with this is we obviously don't have $2 million sitting around to just start repairing things. So next month, or next meeting on October 23rd, Liz Hennessy from William Blair is coming back in to discuss with us our different bonding options and where our debt service payments are at and our debt capacity and our bond ratings are at. And Tim and I had already met with her once. She'll meet with the finance council before that, and then she'll do a whole presentation for the board. But she, identified where she'll identify and answer questions to the board of, how do life safety bonds work? How do they impact our debt service? How do they impact taxpayers? Those kinds of things, where interest rates are, what's the process for getting life safety bonds, some of those things. But she felt that we were at a pretty good time right now with interest rates being so low that this might be something that the board wants to take a serious look at over the next couple months if we do have some life safety issues.
Was there a 2005 report that you and the council reviewed, a life safety report? If we're not due till 2015, does that mean there's a 2005 report you reviewed?
Yeah, and Tim, did you?
Never found anything on it.
So we have to check with the state and see if we can pull the old copy that was filed with the state.
So when you took over, there's no drawer with life safety
there
reports?
Not too many drawers.
So we can...
I know that on the construction project we had for life safety A, B, and C. A's were the
Right.
ones we had to fix right away.
1
B's
year.
were the ones that were
5 years.
5 years, and then the C's were
Just recommendations.
recommendations.
Did you see any of that, Tim?
No, I just know that that's what life safety.
I'll look at my files and see if I have them.
Are they in your attic, man?
I don't put stuff in my attic.
I think a couple of things have to be pointed out. I was hoping they would do, to best our knowledge, there's no imminent concern with the structural soundness of our stands. That's correct, right? We don't want to show people pictures and have a concern that it's going to crumble. But you're getting recommendation that it really should get looked at sooner than later.
Correct.
The second thing is, we're not quite sure with this annual review process of what the state's going to do with compliance, but we have been told we're out of compliance both in terms of not having enough aisles, handrails, and this spacing on our,
Right.
and that's true of all of our stands, at least some of it everywhere. We
Right.
don't have handrails anywhere. So
Even our pool bleachers.
even our pool bleachers, all of our basketball courts, all of our pool, our football, we at least have some issues with complying with the current standard, right? Although we also don't know without having professional look at it is whether there's some grandfathering or not involved in that. We just know they pointed it out. And the other thing that becomes very obvious is whatever we didn't decide to work on and upgrade and repair with our last construction that is old and falling apart. Maybe that's a little bit of exaggeration, falling apart, but the stadium stands, all the stands we're talking about, they're very old. And the condition of the tennis court is very old too. So, Mike has a good point. Did we look at the old life safety report, but the fact is, it's 8 of the 10 years later, and based on the review we're getting, we might want to eat 2 years off of, to go 2 years early to get this done, to make sure whether there's issues and whether we need to make some improvements sooner than, waiting 2 years and have some problem with the stands, especially in the football bleachers.
Well, Tim, I'll tell you right now, from personal experience, I will never go up on top, on the higher end of the bleachers because of the fact there is no rails there, even on either bleachers around here, because of the fact is that there is no way to grab to where you're going to. Secondly is, I think that with West 40 coming in and looking at this stuff and saying you're not compliant, does that push them up and make them into a faster, so instead of them waiting every 5 years or waiting till every 3 years, they come up and say, we're going to start doing it every year with you until we get you into compliance?
Yeah, actually, West 40 is an annual one.
Okay.
That is an annual one.
But when they say you're out of compliance,
Yeah.
the question is, what is the deadline to come in compliance? That's what
Yeah.
I'm not really
Well,
hearing.
We don't
no,
know.
right.
We
And-
don't know.
He did check up on it a little, and it's not like we can't get it straight.
Yeah.
We
It
don't
is-
know if
it's-
there's a grandfather clause.
Right.
That's why they keep coming every year and saying we're out of compliance, but there's never been a push to say this can't be occupied until you do it.
Right. And to this, at least that I'm aware of, on this last West 40 one, they didn't look at bleachers. We had to have it in case they asked for it, but they didn't ask to review our bleachers.
And is there yearly documentation in your drawer somewhere that has the results?
Yeah, they write a report and they send it out to us. We maintain it, and there wasn't anything in it about bleachers. They have, it's
You have
an
an annual
unusual situation.
You have an annual bleacher inspection, though.
Yeah, we have to have it.
Okay.
We have to have it on file.
And then the last
Whether or
couple
not
of-
West 40, requests to see this year's or whatever is what, it seems to vary depending on what their priorities are.
And who is inspecting the bleachers every year?
We got a certified bleacher thing. It was Bleacher America, the last one, Bleacher
Okay.
America.
And do they say anything in their report that if you're out of compliance, there's a due date?
No.
Do they-
All they do is put in, that they cite where you're out of compliance. And they make recommendations, and but beyond that, no, there's no, you can't, you have to have it fixed by this date or that day.
Are these a relatively small report?
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Is it something you could just send out in a weekly update in a week or two, just so
Sure.
we can
Yeah.
look to see what it is?
Yep.
Also, where does this report go after they do the audit?
We have to maintain it.
Don't they?
So, yeah, but where does it, so Bleacher America comes in, makes this audit, bleacher audit. They fill out a report, give it to you. Where do you then turn the report into?
We maintain it.
We
That's
maintain
it.
it, and then if
And
West.
right now,
Florida
there's really
Regional-
not there's no sort of process or mechanism for getting it to the state or whatever. It's just left to the regional offices to.
So when West 40 comes here to visit, inspect the facility,
Yeah.
do you have to have that paperwork out there for them? Or
Yeah, as they request it. They ask for a bunch of things like our emergency plan. They'll ask for some different items. They did not ask for our bleacher report on this last visit.
Any other questions for Joel?
Do we have any fines for being out of compliance?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I approved.
One of the issues is where we're at with regional offices and some of that. I think in the past year or two, they've been in the paper, and that's something that Governor Quinn had cut, so then they lost a lot of their resources. Yet the school code and the ways the laws are set up, the regional offices are responsible for some of these inspections. And so the thing that I would caution the board, or at least we should definitely make note of, which I know we are, is that, knock on wood, something should happen, and we don't want to have somebody pull files and say, hey, we were notified that we were out of compliance and we didn't do anything, or at least have a plan in place on how we were going to begin to become in compliance.
And estimates, where are they? They're from Bleacher America?
Yeah, I would say too, they're definitely estimates. They're very round, kind of told them.
Joel, except the top one, $1.5 million, you didn't.
No, I take that back. Yeah, that was a number, kind of assuming the worst number. It had to be replaced, and I couldn't begin to fathom a guess at that, but that was just a number to kind of give us some sense of it.
In the stadium itself, is there any issue with asbestos, with all this leaking and everything?
No, no, that's it's essentially concrete structure. I looked at there's a boiler room in there. Typically, that's where you'd find stuff like that, and it's regular, fiberglass and paper wrap and stuff.
Any other questions for Joel?
We had a company come in we did contact the Facilities Council. Thought it'd be a good idea that I'd start working a little bit with our current architect on record, which is White, who would be a good choice to do the life safety survey, just because they were involved in the building renovation project, so they would know where a lot of the repairs and a lot of things were put in, why they were put in, or why they were corrected. And if I think it's on the second or third page, this talks about a possible proposal and what it would cost. It's roughly about $39,000 for your life safety inspection. Tim, Joel, and myself, after meeting this morning, we're going to call a couple places just to see if that's similar in price. And I did call another architect that I had previously worked with at a different district, and she said the going rate was about 7 to 10 cents per square foot, and we have about a 411,000 gross square footage for our entire facility on both sides of the street. So that's where they came up with that number. So she said, the architect that I spoke with said anywhere between 30 and 40,000 is about right for the size of our building to have a life safety survey. Now this other plan, the safety reference plans, this is something we could look at. I would need to talk with our attorney a little more and see if this is something we need to be aware of. But this looks like an additional expense, but I think what the board needs to be aware of is before we can really proceed with this project, the first thing you would want to do is bring in a certified architect and give us a true study and analysis of where we're at.
So what do we need to do to move forward with that, so that your suggestion doesn't die on the vine?
Well, the way Tim and I understood, and Liz Hennessy will update us in 2 weeks. I thought, Tim, what she said was to get the competitive interest rates that would benefit the district for this year, would be to try to have the life safety bond paperwork in place before February. So that's one of the reasons in this proposal that Ed Farron talks that he could have an associates from White come out and complete the project in 3 or 4 days. This does not bind us to use White for any kind of work if the board decides to go through. And I think once the life safety bonds are in place, you then have to have a plan in place where how you would do the work within 2 or 3 years, I think, right, Tim?
Yes.
So it's not like we have to make decisions on you know, exactly what we want to do, how we want to do it, we would have to vet this out through the community and through the board and through probably a public facility committee where we would probably rebid services and look at all those things. But I would think the big thing is if we wanted to try to act on this soon, we would have to make a decision shortly after Liz's presentation in the next 10 days on whether or not we want to spend this $39,000 and get the life safety survey completed. We did not budget for this, so this is something that would either put an account over budget or we'd have to obviously tap into our reserves for. We do not budget anything in our life safety fund, right, Tim?
Correct. We don't have any money left.
We
in
have
life safety fund.
$20,000 or so left in the capital projects
Capital
fund
projects, yeah.
that we probably could use to cover some of this. And that's left over from the 66 million.
So could we put this on the agenda for next month to vote on whether or not we move forward with getting an architect to come? I mean, if this stadium looks like it does, we ought to know how much time we have, or if we don't have time, or if we're at risk.
Right.
I think you want to have them do some more bidding out, find out what we can do.
Well,
Yeah.
but we have to vote to give them the permission to do the bids, no?
We wouldn't have to vote, when you say bids, we wouldn't need to bid the life safety survey. If you wanted to do that, I could tell you right now, we probably would have a really tough time meeting that February window. Because you got to assume that it's going to take 30 to 45 days to bid out.
What is the February window?
To get the life, something about the paperwork needs to be into the state to qualify for life safety bonds this year. Liz would have to speak to that a little more, Gary.
Yeah, so
That's after our
before we
first.
rush into.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, I would say let's wait to
put a timetable
hear.
together of all this.
Right. What I'm saying is, what I'm recommending is, this should be on your mind.
Right.
You have the copy of the proposal from White. Let's hear what bond counsel talks about and why. What
And I'm
windows
kind
need
of
to be
concerned
met.
that Mike raised the issue that there's a 5-year plan somewhere floating around here. Who did that 5-year life?
It was in 2005. If our next one's due in 2015,
Right, so who did that one? And are we having them come in for the proposal to bid for the 10-year, the new 10-year one?
it wouldn't be beyond my guess that it was White who did it just prior to.
Was it White, Tim?
It would have been whoever the architect was in 2005. They would have done the 10-year life safety survey for us.
But we don't know that it's in 2005 because prior to the construction project, we had a plan and we were repairing roofs on a schedule. And then all of that stopped when we did the renovation. So it could be,
How do we know this new plan's due in 2 years?
Right.
If you don't have a copy of the
We
old.
followed
Right.
up with the state.
I called the state and talked to them.
The state told me that.
They
So
said
we
that
do know
it's-
we did one, it's a 10-year requirement.
Yeah, it's 10-year, we had to
So
do
we
it
know
in
we
2005.
submitted one in 2005,
so will the state have that?
imagine.
Tim will get a copy of it.
Thank you.
But does the board need to give our superintendent direction, or do we have to vote for him to move forward?
I think Dr. Skinkis is going to tell us the direction he wants to take us. So what were you proposing now? You want to bid out
Be
these?
direct.
Or
I'd like you
get
to
first?
hear this tonight.
Yeah.
Understand we got some significant issues that need to be on this board's plate. Let's find out from Ms. Hennessy on the 23rd of October how these life safety bonds work, what are the particulars, and what kind of time frame we're looking at. I mean, if it comes out that she says, well, after a certain date, now you fall to this interest category, and it looks like it's not gonna, then we might have a longer period of time that we can vet this out and re-bid this. If she comes in on the 23rd and says, you know, this is gonna be the best way for us to get money and not increasing our tax rates or things like that.
That's the other thing I wanted the community to understand.
Right.
Currently now, we have a debt capacity out there for life safety, and we have a certain amount of debt already out there, or has that debt been paid out?
We don't have any life safety.
We retired all that debt?
Yeah, the life safety's all been retired. I mean, obviously, the 2 building issues are still being paid off.
Right, I understand the building
Okay,
ones,
so
but the life safety, there's amount of debt capacity that we have
Yes.
that we currently has been being levied on the taxpayers.
No.
So that levy went away already.
Yes.
Yes. So we
So
have the
that's-
ability to issue life safety bonds, okay, which would then be added to the debt service that we pay every year.
Okay, so when the debt service on those life safety bonds retired, the community has seen a reduction in their taxes for that levy not having to be. And now if we bring these back
Well-
on, because we have the capacity to do that, they would see an increase.
I don't know when the life safety bonds were issued or when they were paid off. The only schedules I have are the building bonds and the working cash bonds. So they may have been paid off a number of years ago. So what you're looking at now is what's your tax rate for your debt service right now? And if you issued life safety bonds, how would that fit in there? Can you fit it in without increasing that tax rate?
And I thought, and this is why I think we wait till the 23rd to get that full explanation, but from our first meeting with Tim and I and Liz about 2 weeks ago, this life safety window that closes in February, if we were to meet those, we would be able to borrow, $3 to $5 million to address these type of repairs and needs without increasing any taxes. But I would rather we listen to the expert on that. But, I guess what I'm saying to you tonight, Laura, to be direct, is that I want to make sure we have this out there, we're in front of it. So if the proposal is that the best opportunity for this district is to do this over the next 3 or 4 months, at least get some of this work done, we understand what we're looking at and what kind of time frame and dollars we're looking at spending that we didn't have budgeted for. Right now, the first proposal is that it would be about $39,000.
Is there a way for us to get the last report? Is
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do.
You're gonna try and do that?
You'll have that by the next meeting.
Okay.
I think when we come back to the board with this information, and I'll suggest this also in the council setting, is we need to have, not you, we need to have a one-page that really explains what debt we have out there, what is our repayment endpoint, the working cash, exactly what point will we be making our last payment. Do we have the ability to borrow more working cash with that outstanding? I believe it's no, but I'd like an expert to tell us. And if we did life safety, how many years is the options? And as we discuss this, we need to really make it clear as to what the choices the board has as we move forward, because right now, it's kind of a mishmash of we don't know, if we did do this, it wouldn't raise taxes, that type of thing.
Right.
We need to be more clear and succinct when we bring this forward to the public and not fumble the numbers.
The way we laid this out was so that the council seen the concerns, and we've been talking about them for a while. The board's seeing the pictures, the concerns, the general report. Then we're going to talk about financing, and there'll be a finance council in between that committee of the whole meeting. So you could, what I've been trying to use my superintendent advisory councils for is to try to make sure we ask questions before we get here. So like you said, we can tell the bond council, hey, do a one-page summary that we can hand out to any visitors or have available on our web that would summarize our debt service, how this would impact your taxes. And that's what we're trying to put this out in a strategic format so that people can see a game plan.
Well, I'd like to, I think Mike had a good idea, but I'd also like to point out that what we'd be doing, what his first recommendation was to move up our 10-year life safety study by 2 years. So it moves up the cost, but the cost is going to be there anyway. And that's based on the fact we've gotten reports by the state saying we're not in compliance with our stands, and again, no imminent concern, but the concern of whether we should know sooner than later if there's things that need to be repaired or replaced there. And making that initial decision, because White's our registered architect, that's why he went there. We don't have to do anything special. Got an idea, and again, it is $40,000, but got an idea that it's in line. He hasn't explained, I assume he was, this safety reference plan is news to me, but, and then also says in here, I took a quick glance, that this wouldn't include an estimate for the cost to do the life safety work. So, in either case, first you need to know whether there's an issue.
Right.
And whether it's imminent or it can wait for the next 5 or 10 years. And the next thing you need to do, especially if it's something imminent, how much does it cost? And then, the third thing is, once you have that, how are we going to fund it? Which you're going to get that information. So the only part of it although there's pieces in here that Kevin's gonna have to recommend or not, like this 10-year, the safety reference plan, and whether we should be seeing how much it costs to get an estimate, even if it's a ballpark estimate of a cost, if they say it needs to be done, is whether we should do that part sooner or later, and whether we're feel pretty strong that we should look at more than one architect for just the life safety part of it, because if that's what people expect, and we think we should find out sooner or later, Tim and Kevin are gonna have to go reach out to some other architecture firms in the next few weeks to try to get that information.
Joel, seeing the safety reference plan, do we already have one of those on site, or is that, if we do, but not, and maybe a succinct scope that they're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not aware of it, and I know the safety reference plan, that's something that, from my experience, that's something that's kind of risen to the the compliance top here. It wasn't, I don't know that it was a requirement on our last life safety survey, the one from 2005.
As you know, there weren't annual inspections required on stands
right.
back then.
And this
That's
is
a new
something
change, right?
This is something that I remember in the DePage ROE, Regional Office of Education. They started talking about this, and I think it's kind of it's a newer thing, but I don't know what sort of
Now, Tim seemed to think that this fell, Tim McGinnis, that this fell under professional services, so it's not something that the life safety survey would be required to go out for bid, because they are the architect on record, and it is a professional service. And in my conversation with the other architect, they did think that it did make some sense to have the same architect who just did the recent renovation, because you would think a lot of the life safety stuff that was on in 05 was probably addressed in the renovation project, and that if not, they would understand why it wasn't, or were there things roughed in so that it could eventually be done in the future. Some of those things where it might cause additional manpower or time to try to complete that survey.
Let's do this. Let's wait till we see what Jill Hennessy comes back with. But in the meantime, Liz Hennessy, and then what you can also do too is look out there and just see what other architects, I'm just comparing price-wise, and also do some negotiation to see if we can combine them and get a better price.
I'll try to get to the board. I will get to the board, if not in the weekly update, but for the other board meeting, we'll get a copy of the 2005. We'll call the state, see if we can pull that. So you got the 05 record, and then we'll have a summary document, as well as Liz being present at the 23rd to discuss our bonding capacity and how life safety bonds, as well as other bonds, work, and some of those things. Does that sound right?
And I do agree that with Tim that this life safety is going to help us, give us this roadmap to the future, where we're going to be at and where we need, so that we're not going to get surprises all of a sudden coming up to and saying this is what it needs.
And there's some specific things I need to check with either Todd or Lynn, but there's some specific things on architects. I'm not quite sure if you're allowed to just get proposals, or you actually have to do a full-blown RFP. There's some specific stuff in the code, school law pertaining to architects. So I have to check on that, because I'm not sure if you're allowed to just call and get price quotes on life safety.
Would you ask at least White if they could, what would be the cost of getting a high-level estimate of the cost if they say something needs to be replaced? They excluded it.
I did not ask that. Could we ask that? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't hear you, Tim. What
I
did
just
you say?
asked to, I'm sorry, I asked if he would ask at least White to give us a cost estimate of how much it would cost them to give us a cost estimate, because it's excluded from here. So if they do the inspection and say we need to, say, replace the football stadium, we won't have any idea how much they think it would cost to do that.
You would ask this before they do a report?
No, I'm just saying.
They're excluding it out
When they-
specifically in this.
I'm asking,
Go ahead, Tim.
No, when they do the 10-year life safety survey, they tell you what you have to do, and they give you an estimate on cost. They have to plug all the information into the state IWAS system, so they have to have the costs
well,
there.
it makes it sound like here they're not doing that.
It says order of magnitude,
really-
I guess.
Oh,
They'll
order
give us
of
an
Really
order of
round
magnitude.
numbers are very
Oh, that's
much
fine.
estimates.
And they're-
But they have
they're
to plug
high.
those repairs into IWAS, and then IWAS gives them what they think what the bonding
Okay.
would be.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Joel or Kevin?
So then, the plan going forward, then after the 23rd, you will know, Kevin, whether or not to go forward with this life safety report. Is that the language on it, or?
What I'm thinking is after the 23rd, based on our discussion on the 23rd, we're trying to get away from voting, but I'm not even for sure if we would need to vote to give me the direction to go and get the life safety done. But if it would be, then I would say that at the first meeting of November, I would bring it for a formal vote to the board, based on the information and discussions we have at the next meeting.
Okay, let's make sure that happens so that it moves ahead if it needs to move ahead.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Joel, or I know that you have other information in your business review and operation. Do you want to bring up any key points in that, or you want us to look at it, or what?
You know, just, I guess, in a very general way, you know, we've transitioned to our new staffing level, and I think pretty well. The numbers in there that kind of reflect that too. The inspections and that turnaround time on maintenance requests, those kinds of things are pretty much, you know, at or near where they were. But it's obviously something we continue to monitor. Beyond that, just a couple of other items that we're the LED sign. I don't know if you, on your way in, if you noticed, it's missing, except say for the post. The post will be demolished tomorrow. We're doing that, and they'll be installing that on Thursday. They'll be excavating on Thursday and installing on Friday. The one out on First Avenue. Good. So that'll be kind of.
So what's the test run period on that? Because I think what we would, Pam and I had talked about this a little bit today, is that shortly thereafter, once it's up and operational, we'd like to invite members from the boosters as well as the class of 2012 who donated money, and kind of just do a little photo shoot by it and.
Right. You know what? I'm sorry. I don't have that date, and it'll be weather dependent too, when we'll get there. But I talked to Brian today, and he thinks this is going to be a pretty quick install. So.
Okay, so just keep Pam in the loop so that she can
absolutely
work through Art as the liaison to the boosters and the sponsors from the class 2012. Maybe we could do a photo shoot and put a nice little thing in.
Let's wait till
on the webpage.
Let's wait if we can wait over the holidays when I come back from college or something like that. You know, like Thanksgiving around that. I got two other questions. For
yes.
You. The two big elephants in the room.
Okay.
And it's not Kevin and me. It is Soresco and boilers.
Okay. Boilers, we're going through it's a scheduled maintenance process, but we're having the heat exchangers and burners cleaned. In the case of the burners, actually, thus far, and we're in the process of that now. In the case of the burners, actually, they're being replaced. They're being replaced under warranty by Camus and Applied Mechanical. So essentially, we got new burners in there too, and you know, I haven't been here the whole time, but I know our lead maintenance guy did tell me, you know, when they lit them off the first time after that, you know, he never heard them light off that smooth. So it looks like they're working well, and we've got one more to do to pull the burner on, but that's scheduled for Friday.
So you've had right now cold weather come in last week.
Yeah.
Did that work?
Yeah. You know, we're set up. We have 4 boilers here. You know, through most of the season, we're going to use 2. You know, and we kind of alternate them so we don't wear them out. You know, we wear them out more evenly. So we're certainly at that. You know, the ability to do that, and it's not that the one that doesn't have the burner pulled yet doesn't function. It does. You know, just not as nicely as the others. The Soresco, which is the pool HVAC unit, that's operating, you know, in range as designed. It's been a pretty tough slog with that thing though, and I've been communicating and keeping them very much aware of the maintenance that we've had to you know, put into it, and the corrective maintenance that we've had to have contractors look at it. They're aware of that. They were very responsive when I made them aware of that the last time we had an issue. And it's just something that we continue to monitor.
Any other questions for
Yeah,
Joe?
let's go follow up, because it's on the agenda for later, maybe Kevin or Tim wanted to address. We had to pay $300 to $50 to repair the Soresco unit, and $1,700 for refrigerant.
Yeah.
Is that norm? Is that just
Yeah,
normal
you know,
maintenance, or was that
there's
have
going
to
to
do
be,
with the problem?
sure, that's, you know, there's going to be corrective maintenance on any issue, on all the pieces. You know, whether we're doing it or a contractor or that. To me, that seemed excessive. That was a lot of refrigerant loss, you know, and that was part of the documentation that I sent to Soresco. You know, I'm concerned. I think that at this point, it's operating as designed, but it's a touchy piece of equipment. It's a sensitive piece of equipment. It's doing a difficult job. You know, there's a lot of water surface in that room. It's a lot of hot water surface, and it's, you know, it requires a lot of maintenance.
Joel, your experience, though, you've said that every place you've been at, you've kind of dealt with the same thing. There's really only 2 providers.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
And it was pretty regular at your previous district that those things were going down.
Yeah, they're, I guess the best way to characterize them is they're temperamental pieces of equipment. They're complicated, and you know, it's, I guess I'm not letting any secrets out here that, you know, most facilities guys don't like them. Just because they are that way. You know, they're more energy efficient than your typical, just, you know, sort of gigantic air handler and exhausting the space out all the time. You know, you're keeping a lot of the same heat. You're recovering a lot of that heat, so it's good that way. But it's a complicated piece.
You're talking about the technology, not the brand.
You know, there's really only there's really only two providers Kevin alluded to, you know, that do this. There's only like two stores in town too, so it's not like you can go anywhere else for that type of equipment.
Any other questions for Joel?
I'll ask the last question before we move on. Has the district received any letter from the Illinois Department of Transportation regarding the Forest Ridgewood First Avenue intersection and future plans to do any work there?
I have not received anything at my level.
Have you heard that there's something out there?
The last time we were updated on that was when they had the parking committee commission, or that group, and IDOT representatives were present to get us the signal and say that they were doing a study at additional work about possible raised medians and some things like that, putting in a right turn lane. And those were all suggestions from the group, and that they were going to do a study on that, but there wasn't a specific date or time on that.
And does putting in a right turn lane affect where that sign is at all?
We talked about that a little bit. And that was from the groups.
The what?
That was the citizens group that was making that recommendations. IDOT did not recommend that. They said they would look at all those different things, but that would cost going well into our property line to add another lane of traffic.
How many feet is the sign from the curb?
It's moved a little closer to the building, but we did take that into consideration when we were looking at this. And we did talk with the village building commissioner, who had absolutely no knowledge of anything from IDOT of extending traffic lanes when we were putting this in, because we wanted to make sure that if there was some plan, we took that into consideration.
Is that why you were asking, because of the sign?
Well, because he's the general keeper of the facilities, and
Right.
and if they did something like that, it would affect him.
Like an overpass.
What?
Like the overpass.
An overpass, please.
Right.
Well,
We did
Exit
take that.
lanes.
Joel, I want to say something right now, and I think I speak for the whole board. You're doing a great job. And you've been on, what, about a year and?
Not even a year, 9 months.
9 months, and in 9 months, you've made an impact that people can really see with it, so you're doing a great job with this. Thank you. Keep on keeping the good work going on.
Thanks, Joel.
All right.
Okay.